Hello and welcome to the Brooklyn Rail's 69th Radical Poetry Reading. I'm Nick Bennett, the Special Projects Editor here at the Rail, and I have the pleasure and privilege of being your MC today for a poetry reading featuring Will Alexander, Martín Bakero, Lara Mimosa Montes, and Alex Tatarsky, all lovingly curated by Edwin Torres. Before we get started, the Brooklyn Rail acknowledges that Black Lives Matter and that here in New York, we are on Lenape-Hoking, the unceded land and waters of the Wappinger, Canarsie, Munsee, and Lenni Lenape people of the Delaware Nation and Shinnecock Indian Nation. We encourage you to check the chat for a living document of resources and actions that we'll be posting in just a moment. And now it is my pleasure to hand the microphone over to the curator of today's reading, poet Edwin Torres. Edwin, over to you.
Thank you, Nick. Hi, everybody. I'm very happy to be here and to have had a chance to invite everybody. I guess I should hold this up. This is the book that we're talking about somewhat from Roof Books. I want to thank you Fong, Anselm, Nick, Anya, the Brooklyn Rail, and I want to say thank you to James, Sherry, and Roof Books, and thank you all for being here. So I want to say a few words about the book and the rough concept behind it, and then the collection of readers gathered to sort of honor the direction of the book. So we start. My angles in the quantum. Self, the instinct of a creature's survival, opens to direction as mobility. Sound, the instinct of a creature's survival opens to mobility as listening. Stage, the instinct of a creature's survival opens to listening as transformation. Words, the instinct of a creature's survival opens to transformation as direction. My home is in the quantum, and if I may invent a definition, quantum, a gathering of energy fields in celebration of quandary. To be in quantum together is to be simultaneously moving towards more. The opening of the book is inscribed with two quotes. The first, by Robert Duncan from the HD book. To keep present and immediate a variety of times, places, persons, and events in the melody we make. And the second quote from the musician Willie Colon, En los barrios de guapos no se viven tranquilos, which translates as, in handsome neighborhoods you do not live quietly, about certain streets in San Juan. The writer Peter O'Leary has a marvelous essay on Robert Duncan's The HD Book, published online in the Cultural Society. He writes, poetry makes the cosmos legible. It was light, it was rhetoric. That's the universe for Duncan. Light and language. To that, I'll add angles, to perception entry, to home quandary. And so we start. The reading order today will be Lara Mimosa Montes, followed by Martín Bakero, followed by Alex Tatarsky, followed by Will Alexander, and I'll finish at the end. Lara Mimosa Montes is the author of Thresholds from Coffeehouse Press. Her writing has appeared in Bomb, The Brooklyn Rail, Fence, Future Poem, and elsewhere. She is a recipient of artist residencies from Marble House Project, Storm King, and Headland Center for the Arts. In 2018, she was awarded a McKnight Fellowship in Poetry. Lara currently teaches editing and publishing at the University of Minnesota. Most recently, she is editor of the artist's monograph, Darrell Ellis, published by Visual Aids 2021. Self, the instinct of a creature's survival opens to direction as mobility. My home as geographic entrail, absent of linearity, is to see where continuity swivels what I'm given with what I am, to invoke direction as mobility. Lara's book, Thresholds, is a beyond-genre book-length poem-film novel that situates my disruption, from mind to body to home. Banu Kapil writes, Thresholds is a training manual for grief and desire, for which no remedies exist except this one, running towards what will burn you up anyway, like a star. To embrace the self as both event horizon and negation is to give silence for the reader to enter, To lose selfhood as organism is to discover thinghood as primordial release. The borough I grew up in, the territory of artistic promise, is there, between the pages, yet nowhere in the captured hybrid of transitional lucidity. That is, in the collection of endings, our starts are endless. I'm so glad to introduce Lara Mimosa Montes.
Wow, thank you for that generous introduction. Honored to be here with you and the other readers and everyone who's joining in today. So all about this idea of the field. I'm going to read from Thresholds, which Edwin had spoke a bit about. Thank you to the Brooklyn Rail. I think this is my first reading of 2022. So thank you again. This was never the book I intended to write. Nevertheless, it is the book that was written. Why did I decide in the writing to turn towards the book before me rather than tighten my grasp on the one that refused to be born? The same reason one might stand in the light of a dead star, to consider the time it took for that light to arrive. This is a story about that story, about the forces inside of an object that push it out into the world and the ones that threaten to break it apart. In this way, it is also inevitably a story about love and the uncertainty that follows me henceforth. Some days that unknowing makes me difficult, other days it makes me odd. On those days, my body hides in the wings so that I can shield my heart from the blowback of a breaking thing. And when people would ask, "What are you writing?" I would return in response, "It's more like the book is writing me." If this sounds dramatic, it's because it was. My hair fell out, the follicles changed shape, and I could no longer piece together a thought. But to recall Cecilia Vicuña, a poem only becomes poetry when its structure is made not of words, but forces. During this time, I did not dream about writing. I dreamt about the forces that wished to be written. They were not always generous. Where had I been and where was I going? Upon revisiting what I had written once, weeks after the fact, I thought in earnest, Sylvia Plath ain't got shit on me. It feels blasphemous to say that, but why pretend otherwise, as though my possessiveness did not attach itself to other objects, namely those so full of the nothing by which I felt haunted? Do I need clarity of mind to speak of these forces, or should I, regardless? I tried to think through them in every tense I could imagine and put forward what I hoped were not the same old questions. Once you spoke without an accent, as if you came from nowhere. Nowhere is not a place. It is a modulation, a throbbing we carry within us, a process unremitting. It was sequential until it wasn't, and open to what is adjacent. There where the violence is, inside the soft tissue holding, wildflowers like wild parts of me, always desiring and unfolding to speak of you beyond the rewriting. But how without the body? I had every intention of beginning were it not for a narrowing, a tightening, the bands of color in which I saw myself surrounded, beautiful striations bending the time between rotations, and the cut inside language insofar as that slash produces I, a python, a fiction. I took the shape of what was asked of me, like a wave that carries the garbage leeward upon the shore. Is this an index of the garbage? Diamond, copper, desert, rose, the knowing that takes place outside of a duration and that encounters relationship to form, have haunted me episodically as an adult. Narrative carries me like a wave and towards the holes. It's through these holes that I take in the breath of the world. If the rush of not knowing is also desire, a desire to ride off on an idealist horse, how shall I speak of my body and its relationship to form? My personhood, those boundaries like sawdust dispersed, not unshaped, just undecided. And yet, upon walking through St. James Park, I noticed a sudden internal rearranging of the parts. But this is not at all cinematic, I thought. Aside from the film, I had no memory of this place that was once a low marshland before it was graded with ash and soil and then transformed into a park. Now, an accumulation of garbage, litter, and glass, or that which you cannot expel. These, the shards. As if by sorting through it, I could finally say, this is why that happened. This is how I got here, that ligament torn. It was not an address to which I wished to return. Why did I feel inside the wreckage that even if I was with you, I was also so alone? At the corner of 193rd and Jerome, I worried as to whether or not it was at all possible to know myself outside of that photo of the young girl surrounded by concrete, brick, wire, and stone. Because as you touch, you are being touched, reflected the choreographer Morgan Thorson in an interview about her latest collaborative dance work with sound artist Alan Swarhawk, titled Public Love. And if touch is a stand-in for something it is not, back in Minneapolis, 3 billboards downtown feature an abstract cluster of hand, body, and garment, and in plain white text read the words public love. Somewhere between advertisement and public art, the gesture is reminiscent of Felix Gonzalez Torres, who said to me in a dream the April before you died, "This is not about representation. It's not even about touch. Give me a body I can in language throw around the waiting, but before the alarm." I've always wanted to have sex to music like this, E says on our way to the holiday function. What? The day after we saw the opening night performance of Public Love, I ordered a copy of Alan Sparhawk's 2006 album Solo Guitar. I had been listening to it while I drove, usually alone, from home to therapy and from therapy to work. It was moody, dark, wordless, apocalyptic, like Jim Jarmusch's Only Lovers Left Alive or Abel Ferrara's 444 Last Day on Earth. Had music ever figured prominently into my sex life? I wondered. I remembered having sex once with M to that song Goodbye Horses, but that encounter was more fun between friends and it was hot. I just thought it would be, interesting to do it to something so abstract. I felt compelled by suggestion to imagine how interesting. E in a room filled with bright, warm, natural light fucking. It would be so calm that all one would feel was not the sex, but the sound. From inside the wreckage emerged a form. It pressed its face against the wall. What if inside the pain is not a knowing you could hold, that which fails to coalesce, a form, and the chalk that outlines the holes? What is the sound of paper burning or the sensation of energy moving as we become just the take of what leaves, a reaching toward the roaring, a sudden rush of epinephrine, a vision of the life you never had, and the knowledge that you are not dead? But by the time she came to, the moment was past. In my dream, was I not dragged? You can live long, it isn't predetermined. And afterwards, I felt my essence rot, the shadow beside 2 bodies that were one. What if the only face of desire I recognize is loss? I began to feel a persistent misalignment in my face. Stop eating so many raw almonds, sit up straight, buy a bite guard, meditate. When I tried to describe this sensation to others, I felt very inept. I used words like broken and asymmetrical. But my jaw feels out of place, I complained. In the mirror, it appeared deviated, so on the recommendation of an acupuncturist, I made an appointment with S, who specializes in intraoral neuromuscular massage therapy. We met a few weeks later in an exam room at a clinic I sometimes visited. Have you ever experienced a trauma? She asked. It was such a direct question, I had to recalibrate. Did she mean specifically in regard to my face? Like a car accident? No. She then stepped out so I could have a few moments alone to undress. I lay face up on the heated table and pulled the sheet up as far as it would go. Naked from the waist up, I felt embarrassed and also tense. Her question gave me pause. Had something happened to me once? S entered the room again. Do you mind the music? A binaural tone, then a swerve. Words arrived I did not know I knew. All memory occupies the entire. But how without a form, if inside of the waves I am part of the pulsing, safe in one piece, alive and unharmed? Why is this like drugs? I could hardly hear myself speak. The words were so slurred. Face up once again, I felt certain parts of me fall back, allowing others to reveal themselves. S continued to work the muscles surrounding the temporomandibular joints in and around the mouth. It was as though, through touch, S had activated some deep prehistoric reflex in my cells that many lifetimes ago, and in another form, may have once been employed via venom-producing like glands whose presence I suspected based on the profound chemical changes they precipitated. When I attempted to describe this experience to H, he said, "It sounds like you were relaxed." I laughed. I guess, but it was so much more dynamic than that. My body was like the meeting point between two screens made of mesh, the point at which they connect. It never felt like writing, and it never felt like sex, the sensation of the parts falling away and peeling back. It was as if I were immobilized by a spontaneous flood of snake blood, saliva, proteins, and polypeptides. I think I'll end there. Thank you again to everyone, and excited for more poetry, more lyric, more quanta.
Thank you, Lara. Beautiful. Martín Bakero. Martín Bakero makes poetry with breath, syllable, phoneme, verse, healing, and joy, creating a nomenclature between the acoustic image and the poetic body. He uses anti-rhetoric invocatory metrics, transmuting the distance between the word and the thing, the real and the delusion, exploring frontiers of the sensory and theurgic Kabbalistic techniques. This is from his bio. In direct connection with radio poetry astronomy, he explores what he calls art telluric, in which he works with sounds from the interior of the earth and other stars. Sound, the instinct of a creature's survival, opens to mobility as listening. Vocal fire, the song of the mobile, ludic elements of improvisation as infrasonic, spatialized quinetics. Martín Bakero, one of the sweetest people I've met, mines from out of the pneumatic acousmatic a post-haze environment of doing as meaning, to find ourselves in tune with steps we haven't stepped yet. As topiary of reanimalized language, what is the realm inside our speech patterns? Interior spirals of endless adjectives to describe the feel of what feels good. The poet is the one who is able to offer the found object culture, Martín writes. I want to frame something I haven't seen before. I want to envision a hearing to bring you closer to a step inside juxtaposition, a question for the barriers we hold. In his extraordinary sound-visual performances, Martín wants us to release from our now into a now of our own. How can this happen? To release into the release we already are, accomplished by finding the new we've always been. To instinct the verb out of word into somatic we. I'm very happy to introduce Martín Bakero.
Wow. About the thing that I destroyed because it makes me want that. That's where the mind comes in. If you protect you. If you destroy walls, you say that you did I was what I meant if your mind destroyed. Your nose, your world is protecting you. They are journeying to the Lord. Prede ton sonito cantándote solitario cerca del corazón. Quanto tu m'alzas, quanto tu m'amas, quanto tu n'amas, cintura más, cintura más, cintura más. If your mind anger sinks, if your eyes so much for the one inside your ears, inside your flesh, inside your souls, inside your anti-weapon surrounding something that is totally out of the emptiness of the other. Occupa la vida, 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 loco solo, la vida, 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 try to hard with some verse, some syllabical rhythms, some special songs, some style qui se Where did ¿a dónde vas, amigo? ¿Dónde te muévela? Muerte querida, muévela. Canta un poquito de la... Canta un poquito de la... What did you receive from the universe? 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 Thank you, Edwin Torres, for that wonderful book. I love you, hermanito.
Martin, the book is now exorcised in traveling in the conundrum. Thank you, hermano. Oof. Alexandra Tatarsky, our next angle. Martin, turn off your conundrum. Gracias. Okay. Alexandra Tatarsky makes work in the unfortunate in-between zone of comedy, poetry, dance theater, and diluted rant, sometimes with songs. They have performed their own work and the work of others at La Mama, MoMA, PS1, and other places. Chapbooks include Vacant Love and Embrace the Tree. As the Shansai Lyric, they have published many compilations of bootleg T-shirt poems. Writings on hypercapitalism, nonsense, and mimes are forthcoming in Art Review, Asia, Folder, and Garlands. Stage. The instinct of a creature's survival opens to listening as transformation. The transformative ear, a mirror of society's earwax. To listen as invention, to open a social construct with rot poetics, one of the many re-reings that Alex's work achieves at a DNA level. The continual work in progress as performance is a model for quantum atomics. That is, how often are we aligned with a step taken, presented as a world taken, a falling apart as clown logic, a building apart? Poet Murray Edmund writes, "The clown completes what the neutral mask begins." It is the apogee of the clown's teaching. And so there, in the same action of Alex's antidote of detritus as sustainable energy, is an opportunity for perception's shift to recycle itself as neutral mirror into the embodied ridiculic, the embalmed possible, the making of the rot you inhabit, the composting of self. If materiality is a concept for bigger words than me, where might reading enter the poem once created on the page? When might a stage become the poem for the situated hurricane, the elemental force of invention to gyre itself as an improvised animation of a life moment? As community allows opening, how vital to have a living, breathing opener among us. Please welcome Alex Tatarsky.
Wow, wow, thank you. I'm so tripped out from Lara and Martin and your introductions. I'm like, I have to come back a little bit down from this vibrational freak out up here. So many fields and feels, and I have to say, I'm seeing this transcription which has such wise typos. So when you said clown logic, it said cloud logic, like loud cloud logic. And I also want to say that yesterday someone sent me a photo of a t-shirt that had angel wings, and then in the middle it said angel, except in the middle it didn't say angel, it said angle. So many synchronicities, the most beautiful t-shirt. I'll get one for everyone at this Zoom. Thank you all for being here. It's such a thrill to celebrate Conundrum. I take it with me now everywhere. The past few days I've been carrying it around and stopping to read, chew, like for a little dose, like to dose myself, you know, and then thinking and then talking to myself. And so I'll just share some of the things I've been thinking. What's going on? What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Quandary, constant, quarantine, quandary, what are we gonna do? Quack, 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 duck crying, sound of a duck crying, quack, 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 quack. So I've been thinking and walking and thinking and saying and talking and thinking, qua, for what? Qua is just what in French. Pourquoi, for what, why, quack, 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 quack. And I learned the other day that two is one. Two is one of the most ancient words, and from two we get duel. It takes two to duel. It takes two to tango. It takes two to quarrel, to quarrel well, to quarrel well. It takes two. Well, anyway, all's well. All's well, and all's well that ends well. When it ends, all is well. All's well when it ends well. Anyway, and may it end. God bless the end. Well, and anyway, well, wall, quarrel, and it takes two. It takes one on this side and another on the other side of the wall. Quarrel, quack, 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 duck, goose, duck, shoot, duck, shoot, goose, shoot, goose, duck, shoot, duck. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. shoot, duck, goose, goose, duck, duck, goose, fuck a mother goose, fuck mother goose, motherfucker, fuck her, fuck mother goose, 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 and her golden egg, fuck a golden egg. What came first? the chicken or the egg? What came first? Quat. And some have a nest, and some have a nest and a golden egg, and some just have a pile of broken sticks in a heap. That's my folk tale, folks. Fuck a mother goose. What came first? What came first? You or me? You or me? Or you seeing me? You meeting me? Me meeting me in the meeting of you. You came first, motherfucker, and then you went to sleep. And then you just went to sleep. You just came first and you went to sleep. Fuck a mother goose. Fuck tales. Fuck folk tales, folks. Fuck tales. Some people have a nest and a nest egg, and some people just have a pile of broken sticks. Quack, 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 quack. Quality? I prefer a mint tea. I prefer a mint tea. Quality has always tasted bad to me. I prefer a mint tea, but that's just me. That's just me. That's just me. God, I'm sick of myself, and I'm not getting any better. I'm sick, and I'm not getting any better. Selling myself, selling every cell, selling every self, every cell on my cell phone. Why do we call it a cell phone? At this point, it's just a cell. 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 And I'm trapped. I'm trapped, tripped up, tripping out. Ow. And it hurts. Quack, 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 quack. And it hurts. And everything has the same root, qua, ke, same seed that made the root of it all, root of evil. And the quarrel that made the words is in the words that made them. You can hear them there, their words, them there, here, seeing and seeding and saying, same root, see, say, see, saw, open the word, see what's inside, sigh, what's inside, pain, as Lara said, what's inside the pain, what's inside the touch, ouch, and then look further, what's inside the ouch, oh, you, see, huh, and why, for instance, did the G in gnome fall silent? I don't know, but I'd like to know. Why did the G in gnome fall silent, fell silent, fell down, fall away? I don't know, but I wish I did. I wish I died. Something to do to die, something to do with war for sure, the G in gnome falling silent, something to do with war for sure, quarrel, qua, and why, and cry, and one tongue doming another tongue until the G falls silent, qua, wha, where, wah. And this is all just a little joke I wrote, and here's another, ha, ah, aha. A laugh is just a backwards scream. A scream is just a backwards laugh. Both are just ways to remember to breathe. Breath in a shape. A sigh is just inside, out. Ow, ow. And to read a poem is a way to slow down, to listen to what's inside, to slow down. And what's inside slow? Pain, ow, slow. And what's inside down? pain, ow, down, pain everywhere. What's inside sound? Ow, pain. And what's ow when it turns around to look at itself in the mirror? Oh, wow, wow, ow, in a self-centered circle, loving itself. Oh, wow, wow, wow. It takes two to quarrel, two tongues entangled, hissing, kissing, self divided against self, and the hiss and the kiss itself ending in snakes. S hissing itself into history, into this story, a snake that fed an apple, that ate its own tail, this tail, and became a circle. Wow, wow. So I've been walking around and I've been thinking these thoughts, and then I came home. I'm staying at my friend's house. This isn't my home. And I've been thinking about gnomes, you know, and gnomes were just men, actually. The Garden Gnome is based on a sad man with no job and no prospects, who would be paid to dress as a druid and sit in front of the homes of the wealthy and just sit there and look sad and look thoughtful. The gnome dressed like a druid, the man, a man with no job and no prospects, getting paid in room and board to just sit there and look sad and ornament the homes of the wealthy with sadness. Gnome from gnosis, knowledge, gnomos, earth dweller, dressed as a druid, drew, tree, vid, vision, druid, tree, vision, vid, ver, see, trees, tree seer, tree sayer, earth knowing, drew, which means true, and also means tree, and tree means true, and also means magic. So these are some of the things that I thought about, and I'll just show you. I came home, and then I saw here that all over my friend's home were little druids in front of homes guarding property, which is just land that someone pretends to own, and near them knights guarding the land that someone pretends to own. Knight also was once knigut. The K and the G have fallen silent from what the knights did, from all their subsequent quarrels. Protecting land that someone pretended to own. Ow, 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 ow. Thank you so much to everyone, to all the readers and the seers and the sayers, and to Edwin for so much tree seeing and true seeing, and thank you all so much. A real treat to be here.
Thank you, Alex. Well, yes, I feel a gnome on the universe many times. Thank you for that deep dive. Okay. Now, Will Alexander. He wrote a blurb for the book, so his words are there on the back cover. Poet, novelist, playwright, aphorist, essayist, philosopher, visual artist, and pianist, Will Alexander has produced 30 collections and counting in the above-mentioned genres. Both a Whiting Fellow and a California Arts Council Fellow, he has been recipient of an Oakland PEN Award, an American Book Award, and winner of the 2016 Jackson Prize for Poetry. Will's recent book, The Combustion Cycle, is from Roof Books, who also published Quanundrum. Words. The instinct of a creature's survival opens to transformation as direction. My home as infinite direction, as mobility absent fulcrum, to see images that haven't been spoken, to define redefinition as freedom. These are directions I refract out of and into Will's work. Harriet Mullen wrote, "This is a poet whose lexicon, a glossary of vertigo, might be culled from the complete holdings of a reconstituted Alexandrian library, endowed for the next millennium." If direction is a home, what realm then, given the history of our standing, to journey beyond lineage for cosmic mapping? To room in syntax with the blade as grass, as starfield. It is what I'm trying to tell you that invades my telling, my sourced ability for reaction that lets me in. To hold on to that intelligence, while gifted by search, is to know the puzzle is there to breathe me in. Thank you, Will, for giving us direction to breathe in. Ladies and gentlemen, Will Alexander.
Will, you should be able to turn your mic on now. There you are.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes. Would like to start by reading from my newest volume that's been co-published by New Directions and Granta, Refractive Africa. And Refractive Africa is about the continent of Africa. And as a non-ideological statement, I'd like to say that Africa is the most important region of the world that is singularly responsible for our current life on Earth. I'm thinking about the raw minerals, you know, and this is non-ideological. If you go back to the British, to the current pillage by the Chinese, you see this natural need. It's coming continuously from the Congo, if it's mining or it's timber or it's coltan or it's cobalt. All these things are part of the grammar of Africa. And in this particular book, Refractive Africa, I wanted to center on the psychology of the whole of Africa, going from the English-speaking ideas promulgated by the energy of Tutuola to the dreamlike Homeric qualities of the poet Jean-Joseph Robbie Ravello in Madagascar. And this is not a personal poetics, because Africa has been responsible for the philosophy of the pre-Socratics on through to the situation at the current stretch of time. This is something that has not been acknowledged, but you know, we see it that it's talked about in boardrooms in Liège and in Belgium, in different parts of in Paris, in London, you know, post-Berlin Conference. And I don't want to be didactic about it, but it's so important psychologically to the human race at this time. And so I wanted to center on this, one of the centerpieces of my book here, the Congo, where all of the mining takes place, where all the minerals take place right now. That's fueling China, and it's fueling the situations in North America, particularly, you know, from Africa, from the philosophy of the pre-Socratics to the mechanical rhetoric of the automobile. It's all combined, and it's been happening concussively since the Greek entry into Africa. I think it was 332 BC to the present day. And Africa has really had no rest, in particular, the modern world, the early modern world, when King John I went into Portugal, which I enunciate in this particular Refractive Africa as part of my introduction. This went to Ceuta in Morocco. King John, that is the father of Prince Henry the Navigator, who continued this Prince Henry the Navigator continued this odyssey down the west coast of Africa, you know, and until his demise in 1460, for different nutrients that has continued to populate the wider world. So in this sense, I wanted to graduate my consciousness to be able to have the energy and the stamina to withstand the Congo and via the English language. And I populate the poem The Congo through the voice of the Nakashic Sangoma. Well, Sangoma is a healer, and it's about healing the psyche via language through the understanding of of one's movement through chaos, which is experienced in the Congo through the struggles with the different conflicts with the different leaders and the eventual opening into attempt to open into a wider world, which has been sullied by corruption and transference of this sullied consciousness. So anyway, the Sangoma is about opening consciousness in spite of his circumstance. And the poem is like a metaphor for the emergence of poetic consciousness in the world that we live in on a day-to-day basis via COVID and psychological disruptions of all sorts. Anyway, I will begin to read from this particular poem, not too long. I'm going to be the last reader. So we'll just read a few pages from the Congo. It's a center poem of Refractive Africa, just as I said, just published by Granta and New Direction simultaneously. I'll read. As a Akashic Sangoma, I peer into the Congo as transpersonal witness, as incisively faceted tiger, squirming, having the powers of a shark via forces that sculpt the lenticular as lightning, perhaps a telepathic wakefulness, perhaps magisterial conjuration, creating migrational litmus in my blood, thereby knowing the dangerous template that is the Congo. Blood infected, day's conundrum, horrific with grandeur, solemnly lit by grainy episodes of lightning. Thus, duplicitous tragedy, innate with microcentric suffering, its stressful indictment, its tertiary woundings, its camps, its darkened glossolalia at the height of bloody moonrise. As far as auric markings, I am never plagued by microtessellation, by extended physical armament, as if under siege, listening to dysfunctional scallops. This being none other than spectral conflict, consulted by looming sentiment, by the spectral inflame that allows the mind to consume itself as refraction, as a smoldering mental sea. Knowing resonance via Akashic transference, I spontaneously engage levitational fuse. Therefore, I engage magnetism and magically invade latitudes in formation by astonishment, by conundrum, by circuitous circulation, according to the realm of osmosis, non-aligned to the institutional as drama. Via intuition, I leap to China and its pragmatic repression, its sociological deprecation. Therefore, I take issue with pragmatic epistles, mechanical as they are, with superimposed stasis conveyed as pointless equilibrium. Always desirous of burning roads into swamps, placing taxable recognition on grain, or pulling wayward crops from earth. These are measures that suffocate the Congo with its intricate mysteriums, so that we cultivate endemic demise, so that we cultivate infected tautology, at bruised as ventriloquial diamonds, shattered in such a manner that we become studded with foreign domination that degrades according to wattage from Belgium, or entangled castles in Britain, or psychic swamps in the Vatican. And above all, sire general psychic clotting, siring a nightmare of particulars, negatively alive with carnivorous anti-resonance, a resonance that reigns as compromised respiration, alive as the global Occident with its self-defination as fever, with its thought always active as defiled arrangement to percussive ostentation, as poisoned psychic fuel, as manufactured habitats, as emblematic dysfunction. The Occident searching for hallowed animal function, for the poisonous protraction as facade that has left us exhausted, enfeebled, burning with quantum negation, with the non-resurrected grafted to the negation of ourselves. When the Belgians told us that we were purposeless, we believed. When Christian nuns struck crosses across our brow, we believed. We believed that part of our galaxy was centered in Liège, or in the Place Vendôme, in concentrated fumes gathered from London's iconic bridge. Thus, our psychophysical wattage reduced to phantom galling. Always revivify its menace to palpitating candles, to broken cellular infernos. Thus we exist as phantom cobalt and tin, as blind psychic enumeration that issue from itinerant conundrums, creating in our minds complex physical scale, thereby creating Erstas archaeology, wayward Christian voids, being none other than spreading micro-infection that attempts at weakening the stability of the soul. This being attempted annihilation, exponential as expanded annihilation that paralyzed the triplicate component of the spirit, mind, and body. As a Akashic freedman, I am allowed to peer through and beyond the pitch of European corrosion and its attendant psychic confusion that occludes itself via the pole of matter, via the dialectic that begins to feign itself through properties that events mechanism as upgrade, so that it kills and scattered all indigenous subtext. In order for indigenous power to ascend beyond abstruse delimitation, we must decipher printed reams concerning post-colonial dossiers on Christ. This remaining our charred psychic vicinity, co-woven with implanted prevarication. With its slaughtered spinning and verbs, not unlike Moshe Shombe and the Kabilas, having sired and kept alive tenacious psychophysical noise as racket, as modular drones sent to root out secrets, all the while concocting a sun that descends and rises on obverse slaughter fields, where nausea perfects its phantoms on earth, where all our corpses are publicly conveyed, crowned by a garland of lizards wrapped around our skulls, not unlike anemones awash amidst scorpions. Europeans seeing us less higher than our tortured calls issuing from the mouths of lions. Therefore, our bodies remain sans value via generic monetary climate far beneath the micro scale of American nickels and quarters. Because I am able to dart across invisible ravines, I am akin to stunned equations. I remain the inclement Sangoma who foretells the state of birth and rebirth via galaxy after galaxy, as if I were living turquoise formulation. Say I morphed into an isolate peccary or a fermented lion sans living context. I could not dimensionally aspire European projection as too perfect with evil. I always revivify its abstracted menace, its negligible claim to reason, all the while possessing corrosive heavenly yield that arises from a blank foundation that founders via its own belief, via its understated fatigue, propelled by bygone direction vis-a-vis the waste of the cosmos, via innavigable bells, never singed by living electrical law that concurs with itself via transparency. As with a dazed electrical griffin, I vertiginously explore invisible solar forms on Mimas and Saturn, or psychic echo missions across galactic volcanic vicinity. So as freedman, as Akashic grammatical instant, I am able to freely rove and through and beyond glass as perpetual holding pattern, accompanied by the interior spirit of vitreous owls through perhaps sigil as sudden predatory vapor, as protosegmet, as contradictory ash magically fallen from heaven. So from this height, I see the Congo as proto-condensation prior to incarcerated mass, being pre-celestial in nature, as sporulation from the cosmos, as if we were pre-inhabited galaxy, conversant as remnant of Mars, as Sanghao, as the Mawa Ubange in Gur. Yet we remain compelled to ruminate on dire consequence as fate that the Occident has inspired in us, dominant with blinding, providing facility for our profound self-abnegation as principle. Not unlike a poisoned astral summons that baffles light, that baffles psychic coriander, that maims connection to higher elucidation, forcing us to turn to extrinsic cancellation that is Christ, that we've been forced to abandon alchemical stress points, condoning spontaneous divinity, so as to worship instead the heresy of a carpenter is used psycho-Euro-colonial template as image compelled according to lateral cunning, an absurdity carried to unimaginable lengths, as a body cast on a cross, as seductive spell for our existential ruin, all the while casting seductive optical haze, presenting heaven at the expense of that which is truly hidden, with its rays that self-script themselves, with static corruption that remains alchemical fission. The latter, our motif, concerns higher migration beyond the isolate parameter that is matter and all that this isolation implies. Prone as it is to matter, sans its isolation from measured barrenness by Greek, by ionized kindling, by measured trope, falsely paraded as vehicular data, as unsubstantiated cyclical speculation, understanding that my torrent is nameless and impartial with burning, as if stealing a horse or riding a barbarous insular mule. As Congolese, we are rife with need for liberty as we routinely starve on fractions, on electrical plasmas rooted in poisonous ciphers. Starvation being language of imposed design, as if our bodies were newly smelted by Europe as newly erected blood meal, as vehicular cattle partially eaten by bats, by spectacular anaconda. So we feed on bushmeat and vermin, on plates of lice and strangled predators. Certainly existence cannot be buried in the American prerogative that prevails concerning the slice of life, the Congo being manufactured, breathing infection, ruled by the infernal, scattered by sudden predatory forms, marked by gruel from insubstantial tyrants via Belgium and the Potomac. This being our world, fueled by plutonium leakage, by barbaric ozone drills, and indigenous organics subsumed under the moniker of error. The Congo sullied by dishonesty, by absences of diaphaneity, as if we resembled fetid solar larvae, this being tragedy, descended upon dark and gold infants, plagued from birth by mounting infections, by wrath from surging CC flies, who gorged on dead cobras. I'm speaking of hunger here and not of an intellectual constant that measures need against graft, all the while constrained by motions of Socratic poverty, always siphoning hunger via the gut, being referenced to endemic starvation. In contradistinction, one thinks of scholars with tightly measured radial skulls, carking and active with numbers, trying to convince our indigenous instinct that only know the depth of the Congo River that conveys itself to us, that it conveys to us the deepest depth of any river in the world. They tell us that it crosses the equator twice, that it vomits monstrous fauna, that it burns at points as a waterfall of knives, that elucidates beauty as feral osmosis, as unlit trepidation, blazing on earth as a blinding dilemma. I'll end it there. I could go on and on because the poem is over 50 pages, but it's something that I think has to be said about the condition of the world as is infected, psychologically infected, and has been infected, I'll contend, for thousands of years prior to the investment of the world as we know it. And Africa's continuously being siphoned off into this tragic misnomer. And I want to convey myself in terms of putting this into a context that is non-ideological, but that is organic, given the fact that the earth seems to be, given the indigenous psychology understood to know that the earth right now is suffering and is angry with the human race. And it's not a didactic statement, but it's all connected. So I wanted to convey this thing lingually, not as some kind of prophecy or any kind of understanding, any kind of didactic assimilation of my via my own content. So this is what I wanted to convey, and hopefully this language will be able to begin to create transmutations across the life in the world as we know it. So, I mean, I'm being engaged by various interruptions, but presently, but I'm hoping that I thank you, Edwin, and all my prior readers, and Ruth Books, the Brooklyn Rail, and thank you for the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you, Will. Yeah, I want to share that was absolutely conveyed. And likewise, what an honor it has been to hear your poetry, Will, Alex, Martín, and Lara. But it is now my pleasure to introduce today's curator of this reading, poet Edwin Torres, is author of many books, including his most recent, Quanundrum, I Will Be Your Many-Angled Thing from Ruth Books of last year. Other books include Ameriscopia from the University of Arizona Press, The PoPedology of an Ambient Language from Atelos Books, and The Animal's Perception of Earth from Doublecross Press, among many others. He is the editor of the intergenre anthology, The Body in Language from Counterpath Press, and has taught and performed his multidisciplinary bodylingo poetics worldwide. Some anthologies he has made include Fractured Ecologies, Who Will Speak for America, American Poets in the 21st Century, Poetics of Social Engagement, and Aloud, Voices from the Nuyorican Poets Café. Without further ado, Edwin, the floor is yours.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. More to say later. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time you may prepare to leave the reading. Please make sure you have all your personal recollections, and on your way out, please watch your head, as objects above have a tendency to shift in a performance. We know you have a choice of poet and hope you have enjoyed your choosing. On behalf of the staff and whoever's here, may you have pleasure in the night you arrive in. And once again, thank you for our patience, as we appreciate your choosing to use that choice for the choosing of what you have sat through, because we realize you have a choice. On behalf of everyone here, we thank you for our patience, and once again, gracias. Gracias and muchos thank you.
to the positive motivating force within my life. Saturday, I run the world. Sunday, I'm free. Saturday is for the world. Sunday is for me. Saturday, I change the world. Sunday, I'm free. Saturday, I save the world. Sundays for me. We move on to the lost limbs of us, our dots connected with loss. We break the luminous details. Does this hurt? Don't ask what you know the answer to. The apparition in question, the open skull, does not answer your call in chronological time. The obstacle that keeps you sustained by the thing you understand, to wake you up in your body. The last resistance I have is body. Ageless as we age, the human spirit, not physical, once born. The words have always been there. I'm moving the body through the body. Byproducts of transition excrete into the system. Let me open your episode, the most visible poem says, to work on your inflammatory response. All tissues open to the promise you put yourself in, under someone's skin. Realizing the poem's spine is the poem. I'm just making some noise. Group d'état. Movement without moment is not revolution, it's just noise. Where in the mass arrest is the alignment of shadows' interference on solstice? Does the organism contain itself before consuming its own mass? Is that where disobedience comes from? To inspire change by way of deflection, to inspire reach by way of personal God, the unreachable blog. The further I can't touch you, the easier I can rest. And I'm so tired these days, and that's the point. Is the noise that happens by waiting as loud as the one inside the ears? The one that unravels revolution? By gear-wrenched creed that whittles doing out of done? The organized paradigm. We were halfway through a conversation in our life together, and then suddenly you disappeared. Is that movement or noise? I don't need to know so much about you. I don't want to be burdened by connection. I do impossible very well. No Yo-Yo. He's from New York. From Puerto Rico, New York. He's a Nuyorican, what they call a Riqueño. Being New or Trigueño, speaking New or Rican. A New York-seeking New Yorker, is he new or a porter? A port of sherry, sherry, puerto, yorko, yoko, el coco. ¿Qué hablas? Se habla coco. Noco. No city, port of no city Rican. A Puerto Rican is called a Boricua. A Boricua. A boringua, a bore. This is boring. Into my yawner. What chu saying? What new saying? The new say be the new city of York. A Yorkie, a pit, a bull, a toro, a torres, a nores, a city no-no, a city Yorker uncorked, a boozer, a bozo, a new bozo. Yo soy bozo in the yo zone. See, yo soy the new yo. That's some new yo, bro. Yo Rican, see, soy no Rican. He's no Rican from no Riqua. He's no you. No yo, no I. The I in I is the new no. I be some of that new no from no Riqua, bro. Cell division. Compartment. Actually, I'm going to read something else. I'm jumping ahead. This is a little longer. This is called Torn Expanse. Support one star point with vapid dismissal. northness in the elevated solstice, the early beyond of a knowing ember. Take heed and goose across the folding migration. Many envelopes yet to fly, obelisk inscriber, affect feather night by Hopi vibrate. Cheat the clouds, arabesque the indivisible object, the seer's wall. Maybe dressed, maybe fought, might faint all points west, all crowns relieved by a disappeared sun. And yet here's the quiver. Did you disappoint by disappearing? Or is that clever use of D words, a dis in the prefix of evening, a kind of darkling that takes the breath away? Sleep for a day's worth of knowing. What completes without what is saying so? To clear the voice inside the road would take more than there is to imagine, more from the internal beyond. Connect look with how. The breaks pretend to see how the puzzle of time is a reminder, a string, a celestial wrinkle across how many digits left to bury. Another night, a torn expanse, blooded interweaver crossed. Was it there? But look, was it us? Seeing the look, the connect that so much of make is good for? And there it goes, doesn't it? Just something to capture, something to remind the fingers, the human extension of what passes from one world into the next, the one to sit at, when stars decide to drop their glory into the lucid rememory that passes again for the capture of one more version of removed interpersonal planes, at level with the framing devices that we, if we can claim an us, can be the us we claim. For a moment of a second's impasse, the turn, now captured in the directionless kiss of mouth by brain, where the landing presents something soft, a reminder of what returns before the touch becomes the neck, the sift, or the eyes on the back, where the fingers know best the gathering of trails, of passages imagined, as hairs that stray the cerulean hollows, where you stroke Borealis, applauding prima dawn. I'll leave it there. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Will, Martín, Alex, Lara. Thank you, Brooklyn Rail. And Fong, you're out there somewhere. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Edwin. Today has been such a deep pleasure, and I want to thank you for organizing this, and I of course want to thank Alex, Will, Lara, Martín, and everyone for joining today. We encourage everyone to view our archive of these conversations on our YouTube channel, where we will upload today's conversation shortly. And join us tomorrow at 1 p.m. for a conversation with historian and cultural theorist James Clifford, Rail editor-at-large Thurza Nichols-Goodeve, and Rail contributor Hearn Pardee. We conclude with a poetry reading from Noah Mendoza. You can now all turn on your microphones to say hello and goodbye, and thank you all for joining today. Thanks, Edwin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. This
Thank
was
you.
so great.
Thank you, Will.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you
Nice
so
talk.
much.
Hey,
Beautiful.
Will.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Lara.
Beautiful, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Edwin.
Thank you.
Terrific reading.
Grazie mille. Another great reading, Edwin.
Sure. Thank you, Fong.
Beautiful curation. I love it. Thank you, Will. Thank you, Lara. Gracias, Martin and Alex. We love it. I feel
Thank you.
nurture.
Good enough. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Version.
Way to spend the afternoon.
Our language is being restored.
Yes.
We'll fight to keep it that way, you all. Gracias. Thank you. I'm grateful. We are grateful. The Rail is grateful to you all. Please keep up the good work, and can't wait to see you in flesh.
Yes.
22.
Thank you, Fong.
We are organizing a big, huge exhibition that will include poetry readings. So I'll be in touch with you all very soon before I come out of this country. Back to labor camp in Vietnam. No, you have to go technically. Gracias, Will. Thank you, Will.
Okay, thank you.
Edwin. Thank you again. Martin, Betsy, Alex. Going, you okay? Thank you so much.
Yes. Be safe, everyone.
Yeah.
We'll do.
Take care.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.